secretary at the USDA, somebody with a long organic pedigree. So we wish you luck, and we welcome you to this conference.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Mark, thanks very much. And I want to say that I'm pleased to be here today. And I understand and appreciate the emotion and the concerns that have been expressed in my presence, and I suspect before I came here and will be expressed after I leave. And I apologize for not being able to spend the entire time with you, but we are going to have a larger town hall meeting style with Secretary LaHood in just a few minutes. Let me start off by saying that after I was nominated by President Obama and began this job, one of the first
Please come to the Smart Farm or the Egg Society office in the exhibition building. We have a lost mom and dad. Please come to the exhibition building in the Egg Society office.
I think most of us who've been parents have been lost for a long time. One of the first calls I got was from Tom Bias, who at the time was the president of the National Farmers Union, and he asked me to call a woman in California. He had just talked to her. He'd been out to California and just talked to her, and I was happy to do it. And when I got her on the phone, she told me the story of how she met this rather handsome young Dutchman who had come over from his native land to California to start a dairy. And it was his goal and his dream to have that dairy. They had 7 children. They were raising their children, and they were working hard, as every dairy farmer in the country works. And things were okay. Then prices began to fall, and the pressure began to build, and the stress began to build. And it got to a point where this proud Dutchman could not take it any longer. And unfortunately, he took his own life. And this woman was this wonderful, proud woman who was so proud of her husband, and so proud of the quality of life and the way of life that he represented. She decided she was going to continue the operation, and she was going to raise these 7 kids on her own. And she only asked one thing of me, and that was whether I'd have time to visit with them when she traveled to Washington to talk to her congressional delegation about farming. And of course, I was happy to do that. That conversation brought home to me memories of my law practice back in the mid-'80s when we suffered through a farm crisis where we lost, in my state of Iowa, so many farmers, and I represented so many that struggled to hang on to their farms. So my first message to all of you is that I have some sense and some idea of the stress and concerns and the emotion that you have today as you struggle not just to save the farm, but as importantly a way of life. Second thing I want to convey to you is that we are beginning to take steps at USDA to respond and react to the concerns that you've expressed. And we are making changes in the folks who will be in charge of the organic program at USDA so that it accurately reflects the values and concerns and hopes and aspirations that all organic farmers have in this country. We are focusing on rules that will level the playing field so that small and medium-sized producers have a fair shot. We are, as you are, asking questions about how producers can make so little and how others who are in the chain can make so much. And we are attempting to take steps to provide assistance to dairy men and women across the country, dairy producers across the country. The first thing we did was to begin moving a lot of our surplus product out of our warehouses. We moved 200 million pounds of non-fat dry milk and began to purchase more commodities. We began the process of making the milk payments. Between the commodity purchase and the milk payments, we'll invest about $1 billion of additional help and assistance in this fiscal year. We recognize the importance of an export market, and so we reinstituted the DEEP program for 2009 and 2010 to provide resources so that we could potentially export more of our product and hopefully stabilize price. We're in the process of sending letters out this week to our farm service agencies and to commercial bankers that we're working with, asking them to take a very close hard look at existing loans. If interest rates can be adjusted, if payments can be deferred, if principal can be reduced, so that folks can stay on the farm and hang on to the farm and keep the farm and transition from bad times to better times, that we have an obligation to look very close and very hard at every single loan to try to provide as much help and assistance as we possibly can. And we want our commercial bankers to do the same. They ought to do the same. We are in the process of taking a look at ways in which support structures and systems could be temporarily increased in the hopes of providing more stability in price. And we have begun the process internally with an advisory group to take a look at how we might be able to stabilize prices so that we don't have these high fluctuations in prices, which make it so difficult, particularly for small and mid-sized producers, to make a living and be able to predict the future with some degree of certainty. We're doing all of this in addition to trying to create new opportunities in rural America. We have a program that we're working on that will be announced by the Deputy Secretary later in the summer, which is really designed to invest in linking better, even more so than we have in the past, local production with local consumption, so that we have local markets. And we are making every effort to deploy the stimulus money that is available to the USDA in a way that will expand economic opportunity in rural communities, the most significant of which and the most immediate of which is making sure that the SNAP payments, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program payments, get into the stream of commerce as quickly as possible. $20 billion of the stimulus goes into those programs. We know that 97% of that money is spent within 30 days. We know that in the state of Wisconsin alone, in the last couple of months, we've invested $200 million. We're going to continue to do that in a way of trying to provide help and assistance. So my message today is that I would never ever suggest to you that I completely understand the stresses and strains you all are under, but I do have some sense of it, and I have talked to people who have been very, very deeply affected by this. We are trying to be your USDA. We're trying to make sure that we are a USDA that doesn't cater to one aspect of agriculture over the other. We are trying to make sure that small producers, mid-sized producers, do in fact have a future. And I will tell you that I believe very strongly, maybe even more so in the last couple of weeks than I ever have, now that my wife and I have a grandson for the first time, in the future generations seeing hope and opportunity in rural communities. This is the heart and the soul of this country, and I'm going to do everything I can as long as I've got this job to give you all a fair shake. So,
we need true organic and pasture-fed animals.
And that's the rule. The ruling. We're in the process of developing rules. As you know, the rule came out for a comment. We received 19,000 comments on it. I would expect and anticipate that in the not too distant future we'll have a rule on that, and we understand and appreciate where you're coming from. Kathleen Merrigan is overseeing that, and I have a lot of trust and faith in Kathleen and what she will ultimately help us decide. So we are working on all of these issues, leadership issues, the rule issue, trying to provide financial support, trying to get you through the tough times, and we're doing everything that we know to do.
Will we prosecute the violators of the organic standards?
That's a good question. Thank you.
If I'm not compliant on my farm, the law gets put into effect right now today. I'm severely punished. The laws need to be enforced.
I agree with you, and I commit to you that we will indeed enforce the rule.